Hi everyone, I'm Shelly and you're watching There's No Place Like Home. I'm back with another video and today's topic is Satan's Little Season Debunked. As someone who once ascribed to the Little Season doctrine, but eventually discovered that it was based more on historical theories than on actual scripture, I have made it a point to try to show why I stopped believing in the little season. If you don't know what the little season is, it is basically the theory that we are now living in the little while or the little season that is mentioned in Revelation 20, which took place after the 1,000-year millennial kingdom. I have made a few videos about the little season and trying to show you biblical reasons that we are not in the little season right now. But I decided to make this one today because I'm going to be sharing just two passages that I think pretty much should be the nail in the coffin for this doctrine. I know that there are people who are very, very dedicated to it and desperately want it to be true, so they won't want to hear it. But I'm going to share it with those of you who might be on the fence and who might be intrigued by it because it's a really interesting theory, and if you are someone who gravitates towards, alternative history or towards mythology, like I was always one who I love mythology. I love learning about Greek mythology, Roman, Norse, Egyptian, and it's a Christian mythology. Now, most people who believe in this would not admit that, but that is actually what it is. It is a Christian mythology, so it is going to be something that attracts those who are inclined to just be interested in that sort of thing, like I once was. Now, a lot of people who are in the little season community will tell you that it is just a very small group of people who believe this, but that is not actually the case. It is growing in the number of people who believe in it. This is just a search on DuckDuckGo for Satan's Little Season, and as you can see, just this one search, it's mind-blowing how fast this has actually grown. In fact, I even see channels that were never even professing Christians to be now saying that we are in Satan's little season. So it's not growing just within the Christian community. It's growing within the secular community because it gives a good reason for them to say, oh, well, this is how all of these beautiful buildings once existed. This is what Tartaria was. If you're in the truther community, you know what Tartaria is. And many people will say, well, Tartaria, that was actually the 1,000-year millennial kingdom that happened, but that's all over with now, and we are now living in the little season. Well, I agree with the people in the little season in that the 1,000 years is over. I disagree that it was a physical kingdom. I disagree that it was a literal 1,000 years, and that will come into play then. And I disagree that we're in the little season right now. In fact, if you ask me, I believe that all prophecies were fulfilled or at least started by 70 AD. The thing is that this entire doctrine is based on just a couple of verses in Revelation 20, which in my opinion is nowhere to start an entire eschatological doctrine on just a couple of verses in one chapter of one book. But that's what this is. So we'll start with Revelation 20 and we'll read verses 2 and 3. And he seized the dragon, that ancient serpent, who is the devil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years, and threw him into the pit, and shut it and sealed it over him, so that he might not deceive the nations any longer until the 1,000 years were ended. After that, he must be released for a little while. So this is where the little while comes from, or they usually will call it the little season. I guess it's catchier. The King James Version is the only translation that I know of that uses the word season. I know that a lot of people in this community they like the word season because it makes it easier for them to say, well, it was a literal 1,000 year millennial kingdom, and there are 4 seasons in a year. So if we divide it by 4, then a season is 250 years. So of course, this little while, even though it says a little while, if you say a little season, then that could be 250 years. The problem is that season is not actually the original word that was used. That was only used in the English and the King James. A little while is just, honestly, it's just a passing phrase. I think very, very much has been made of this phrase, a little while, in this community. And I am saying this from someone who did make a lot of this little phrase, because my imagination, it sparked my imagination, and it made me think of all kinds of really interesting things. And that I was one of those people who kind of built this entire doctrine over 3 little words that honestly most people just read in passing, but an entire epic has been made. Think of it as, if you say to your children, I'm going to the store, I'll be back in a little while. You don't think anything of a little while when you say that. But this is kind of like that little while that you're gone at the store turns into this huge epoch, and there's all of these things happening, and you're on this journey, and it ends up being a couple hundred years long, but it's still just a little while. I mean, at least for those who believe that that's what a little while could be. Ezekiel 12 verses 22 to 28 actually are a good indication, though, that God takes timing language very seriously, and a little while would be included in that. But that's not what I'm here to go over with you today. So this is also mentioned in Revelation 20, verse 7. And when the 1,000 years are ended, Satan will be released from his prison and will come out to deceive the nations that are at the 4 corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them for battle. Their number is like the sand of the sea. So, for those who believe that we are now in the little season, they are waiting for Satan to gather the nations to start the war of Gog and Magog. That's what they believe is happening at this point. Most people in the little season, I don't want to say that they all believe the same thing. Most of them believe that the tribulation did happen, and that it happened by 70 AD, that it was completed by 70 AD. They believe that Jesus did come back in 70 AD, but then they believe that Jesus then ushered in that physical 1,000 year kingdom, that ended, and that now we are waiting for this war of Gog and Magog. And then after that, then there's going to be the resurrection and the white throne judgment. So that is what they are waiting for at this point in time. So the first passage that I'm going to share with you, I think, is pretty cut and dry, but I know that a lot of people who believe in this doctrine aren't going to agree with me, but that's okay. I'm hoping that this will at least help some of you who are on the fence to know that it is never a good place to start an entire eschatological doctrine on only a couple of verses in one chapter. And to be quite honest, they can't be backed up at any point in any part of the Bible without, some mental gymnastics and twisting of scripture. But let's just read what Daniel 12 says. At that time shall arise Michael, the great prince, who has charge of your people. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never has been since there was a nation till that time. But at that time your people shall be delivered, everyone whose name shall be found written in the book. And many of those who sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. And those who are wise shall shine like the brightness of the sky above, and those who turn many to righteousness like the stars forever and ever. So I'm going to stop right there. And I'm going to point out to you that in the second half of verse 1, it says, and there shall be a time of trouble, such as never has been since there was a nation till that time. If you are familiar with Matthew 24, which we will be going over in a bit, those were the same words that Jesus used to describe the tribulation. So this is describing the tribulation, because it is a time of trouble such as never has been since there was a nation till that time. Okay, so this is the tribulation that those in the little season believe already happened before a 1,000-year millennial kingdom. But notice what it says here. But at that time, your people shall be delivered, everyone whose name shall be found written in the book. And many of those who sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. Do you see the problem? We have a time of trouble. This never has been since there was a nation till that time. And then it says, at that time, your people shall be delivered, everyone whose name shall be found written in the book. So at the time of the tribulation, the people will be delivered. The resurrection, many of those who sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. And it's referring to people whose names shall be found written in the book. What book is this? That would be the book of life that is mentioned in Revelation 20 in the white throne judgment, which happens in Revelation 20 after the millennium. Now, if the tribulation already happened, why? And I believe that it did. I do believe the tribulation already happened too. I agree with them there. But notice, it does not say anything about a 1,000-year kingdom. It does not say anything about a 250 to 500-year long little season when Satan is running around wreaking all kinds of havoc. Doesn't mention that at all. It goes right from the tribulation to the resurrection and judgment. There is no gap found in there. There's no gap of a physical 1,000-year kingdom found in there. And there is no gap, no mention of a little season in which Satan's going to be running around doing all kinds of awful things and deceiving people. No mention at all. Why? Don't you think that that would be important? So this tribulation, I believe that it was during the time of the Jewish-Roman War was 3.5 years. So 3.5 years would be mentioned, but not a 1,000-year physical kingdom of peace and technology and Jesus reigning with the saints on earth. That wasn't mentioned here. What about this little season? Especially if this little while is actually something that is going to be hundreds of years, wouldn't it be important to mention something like that? Give some sort of guidance to people? I mean, right here we are in Daniel 12. Not a single mention. I'm going to repeat this. It goes from the tribulation and it says, at that time is the resurrection and the judgment. It mentions nothing at all about a gap. Not a 1,000-year gap, not a gap from, of hundreds of years for the little season. I believe the 1,000 years, I'm going to just interject this here. I believe the millennium, the 1,000 years that is mentioned in Revelation 20 is symbolic of completeness. I don't believe that it was a literal 1,000 years. The number 1,000 is used symbolically throughout the Bible many times. And this is one of those times, especially considering that Revelation is one of the most symbolic books in the Bible. So I wouldn't expect there to be a gap here. And there is not. There is no mention of this. Let's go next to Matthew 24 and 25. We're going to read Jesus's words in the Olivet Discourse. And I want you to pay close attention as we read about this, about Jesus' words at the Olivet Discourse. And I want you to try to notice what is missing from the Olivet Discourse. Matthew 24. Jesus left the temple and was going away, when his disciples came to point out to him the buildings of the temple. But he answered them, "You see all these, do you not? Truly I say to you, there will not be left here one stone upon another that will not be thrown down." As he sat on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, "Tell us, when will these things be, and what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?" And Jesus answered them, "See that no one leads you astray. For many will come in my name, saying, 'I am the Christ,' and they will lead many astray. And you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not alarmed, for this must take place, but the end is not yet. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All these are but the beginning of the birth pains. Then they will deliver you up to tribulation and put you to death, and you will be hated by all nations for my name's sake. And then many will fall away and betray one another and hate one another, and many false prophets will arise and lead many astray. And because lawlessness will be increased, the love of many will grow cold. But the one who endures to the end will be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom will be proclaimed throughout the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come. So when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by the prophet Daniel standing in the holy place, let the reader understand. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let the one who is on the housetop not go down to take what is in his house, and let the one who is in the field not turn back to take his cloak. And alas, for women who are pregnant and for those who are nursing infants in those days, pray that your flight may not be in winter or on a Sabbath. For then there will be great tribulation, such has not been from the beginning of the world until now, no, and never will be. And if those days had not been cut short, no human being would be saved. But for the sake of the elect, those days will be cut short. Then if anyone says to you, "Look, here is the Christ," or "There he is," do not believe it. For false Christs and false prophets will arise and perform great signs and wonders, so as to lead astray, if possible, even the elect. See, I have told you beforehand. So if they say to you, "Look, he is in the wilderness," do not go out. If they say, "Look, he is in the inner rooms," do not believe it. For as the lightning comes from the east and shines as far as the west, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. Wherever the corpse is, there the vultures will gather. Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light, and the stars will fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Then will appear in heaven the sign of the Son of Man, and then all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he will send out his angels with a loud trumpet call, and they will gather his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. From the fig tree learn its lesson. As soon as its branch becomes tender and puts out its leaves, you know that summer is near. So also, when you see all these things, you know that he is near at the very gates. Truly, I say to you, this generation will not pass away until all these things take place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. But concerning that day and hour, no one knows, not even the angels of heaven, nor the Son, but the Father only. For as were the days of Noah, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. For as in those days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day when Noah entered the ark. And they were unaware until the flood came and swept them all away. So will be the coming of the Son of Man. Then 2 men will be left in the field, one will be taken and one left. 2 women will be grinding at the mill, one will be taken and one left. Therefore stay awake, for you do not know on what day your Lord is coming. But know this, that if the master of the house had known in what part of the night the thief was coming, he would have stayed awake and would not have let his house be broken into. Therefore you also must be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an hour you do not expect. Who then is the faithful and wise servant, whom his master has set over his household to give them their food at the proper time? Blessed is that servant whom his master will find so doing when he comes. Truly I say to you, he will set him over all his possessions. But if that wicked servant says to himself, "My master is delayed," and begins to beat his fellow servants and eats and drinks with drunkards, the master of that servant will come on a day when he does not expect him, and at an hour he does not know, and will cut him in pieces and put him with the hypocrites. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Starting with Matthew 25. Then the kingdom of heaven will be like 10 virgins who took their lamps and went to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were foolish and 5 were wise. For when the foolish took their lamps, they took no oil with them, but the wise took flasks of oil with their lamps. As the bridegroom was delayed, they all became drowsy and slept. But at midnight there was a cry, "Here is the bridegroom, come out to meet him." Then all those virgins rose and trimmed their lamps. And the foolish said to the wise, "Give us some of your oil, for our lamps are going out." But the wise answered, saying, Since there will not be enough for us and for you, go rather to the dealers and buy for yourselves." And while they were going to buy, the bridegroom came, and those who were ready went in with him to the marriage feast, and the door was shut. Afterward, the other virgins came also, saying, "Lord, Lord, open to us." But he answered, "Truly I say to you, I do not know you. Watch therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour. For it will be like a man going on a journey, who called his servants and entrusted to them his property. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, to each according to his ability. Then he went away. He who had received the 5 talents went at once and traded with them, and he made 5 talents more. So also he who had the 2 talents made 2 talents more. But he who had received the 1 talent went and dug in the ground and hid his master's money. Now after a long time the master of those servants came and settled accounts with them. And he who had received the 5 talents came forward, bringing 5 talents more, saying, "Master, you delivered to me 5 talents here. I have made 5 talents more." His master said to him, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master." And he also who had the 2 talents came forward, saying, "Master, you delivered to me 2 talents. Here, I have made 2 talents more." His master said to him, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master." He also who had received the 1 talent came forward, saying, "Master, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you did not sow, and gathering where you scattered no seed. So I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here, you have what is yours." But his master answered him, "You wicked and slothful servant. You knew that I reap where I have not sown, and gather where I scattered no seed? Then you ought to have invested my money with the bankers, and at my coming I should have received what was my own with interest. So take the talent from him, and give it to him who has the 10 talents. For to everyone who has will more be given, and he will have an abundance. But from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away. And cast the worthless servant into the outer darkness. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. When the Son of Man comes in his glory and the angels with him, then he will sit on his glorious throne. Before him will be gathered all the nations, and he will separate people one from another, as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. And he will place the sheep on his right, but the goats on the left. Then the king will say to those on his right, "Come, you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me." Then the righteous will answer him, saying, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you a drink? And when did we see you a stranger and welcome you, or naked and clothe you? And when did we see you sick or in prison and visit you?" And the king will answer them, "Truly I say to you, as you did it to one of the least of these my brothers, you did it to me." Then he will say to those on his left, "Depart from me, you cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, and you gave me no food. I was thirsty, and you gave me no drink. I was a stranger, and you did not welcome me, naked, and you did not clothe me, sick and in prison, and you did not visit me." Then they also will answer, saying, "Lord, when did we see you hungry, or thirsty, or a stranger, or naked, or sick, or in prison, and did not minister to you?" Then he will answer them, saying, "Truly I say to you, as you did not do it to one of the least of these, you did not do it to me." And these will go away into eternal punishment, but the righteous into eternal life. Now I know you're probably thinking that took a while, but I'm hoping that you are really paying attention to what Jesus discussed in Matthew 24 and Matthew 25. He discussed the destruction of the temple. He discussed wars and rumors of wars. He discussed the tribulation. He discussed the abomination of desolation. He discussed his coming. And then what does it say happens at his coming? When the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the angels with him, then he will sit on his glorious throne. Before him will be gathered all the nations, and he will separate people one from another. Oh, so this sounds an awful lot like Daniel 12, where we have all of these things that Jesus talked about, He talks about his coming, and then at his coming is the resurrection and the judgment. Jesus never mentioned a literal, physical 1,000 years between the tribulation and then his coming and then the resurrection and judgment. Never mentioned. Jesus never mentioned a little while that was hundreds of years long in which Satan would be in control, or at least out deceiving people because he must be loose for a little while. He didn't mention that, did he? No, he did not. He has it exactly the same way as Daniel 12. Jesus came at the tribulation, and at that time was the resurrection and the judgment. There was no 1,000-year gap. There was no little season gap or, extended little season gap in that time period. And, I only went over Daniel 12 and Matthew 24 and 25 with you today. But if you go through the scriptures, you will find there is no mention of a 1,000-year physical kingdom that is a gap between the tribulation and the resurrection and judgment. Never happens. There is no passage other than Revelation 20 that also talks about a little season that is actually hundreds of years, in which Satan is out roaming around deceiving people. It is not found anywhere else. Both of those are only found in Revelation 20, which again is Revelation is one of the most symbolic books of the Bible. And I think it's important to point out again, a little while is just a little, it's a passing phrase to most people, a little while. What has happened is that an entire mythology has been built upon those three words and is being passed off as sound doctrine. And that's just not the case. Anyway, that's all that I have for you today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed and would like to hear more of what I have to say, I would love if you would do that. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave one down below. And if you like my work and would like to become a channel member, I will leave a link in the description box for that as well, or you can just click on it right on my channel page. And I hope you have a great day.